Hey everyone, I'm Brian with WorkshopAddict.com. Today we're going to go over Ryobi's new 10-inch 18x2, which is a 36-volt brushless sliding compound miter saw with laser and blade brake. This is model number P3650, and we've had a chance to use this to build some small projects, but also to really put it through some good testing, figure out how it's going to work, to give you an idea if this saw is going to work for you. So we're going to start out with some quick specs. We're going to walk around the saw, showing you all its features, but also showing you some things that we found that might inhibit how you're working, or little tips, things that happen to us while we're using it. So sit back, follow us around this saw, and we'll give you an idea if this will work for you. Starting out with some quick specs, the saw is a 10-inch blade with a 5/8" arbor. It has a no-load RPM of 4,000. It's a max cut at 0 degrees of approximately a 2x12, and has a max cut, a 45-degree miter of approximately a 2x8. It will cut nested crown up to 5¼ inches, but the one thing that we've noticed on this saw is the lack of a full fence or a tall fence in the back really makes it hard to cut crown. Once you unpack this saw and make a few test cuts, one of the first things you should do is make sure that the blade is cutting square to the fence. If it is, you're all set to go like ours. If it is not, there's 2 Allen bolts on each side that you can loosen up and adjust that fence so you're getting a perfectly square cut. Now on the left side you have a completely fixed fence that is kind of cut out so you can make your bevel to the left without moving or adjusting it. On the right hand side you have an adjustable fence that if you bevel all the way to the right you will have to remove. Now when we made the comment about it's hard to nest the crown, you can see that there's not a lot of fence over here to put a large 5½ or 5¼ inch piece of crown against to nest it. So the fence is one of the things that holds this back as being a full contractor's trim saw. Moving up to the top right hand of the saw, you have both Ryobi batteries that are sitting up here. It is recommended that you use high capacity lithium batteries to run this saw, and you do need both batteries in here with a charge to run it. If one is drained, the first one that will completely drain will stop the saw even if the second one has more fuel to keep it going. It is a 36-volt saw. I really like the idea of having the 2 batteries. It keeps the platform real. You don't have to have different batteries to have a 36-volt system. What's holding Ryobi back a little bit here is that you have 2 4-amp-hour batteries, and they are 72 watt-hours apiece. So once Ryobi upgrades, does the 5, 6, or 9-amp-hour batteries, this saw will really come into play and be a major player for runtime. As we sit now, runtime was absolutely excellent, and we couldn't complain. We did not sit and cut a bunch of different materials, but I can tell you that we were working on this saw for a solid 4 hours with one person making cuts and the other person assembling items, and we only dragged the batteries down to half. So you could put this in a production environment and run it a full 8-hour day on these 2 4-amp-hour batteries. The front of the D-handle is all plastic, and the trigger has a safety that must be pushed to the left before you can pull the trigger in. There is a hole inside the trigger that you can put a lock through to stop the saw from turning on. Once you turn the saw on, the laser does come on and stays on for approximately 20 seconds. If you want to turn the laser on prior to making a cut, you can just reach forward and push that button. The laser will turn on and allow you to line up, then make the cut. On the top left-hand side of the saw, you have the slide lock screw here, along with the small dust port and dust bag. Now, one of the tips that we'll give you if you are having trouble sliding or getting a full cut out of this, forward or back, you can see around here there is some oil and some sawdust. We found that the slide lock here had a little bit of oil on it, and it would collect sawdust in here and back here, as you can see. That will limit some of your travel if you collect a lot of it, and will stop you from making a full cut. So if you're having that happen, just clean the sawdust off back here and move on. You also have a pin lock for the head and a carry handle up top. Changing the blade is very simple. Just make sure that you remove the batteries. There's no sense in risking it at all and having the saw turn on while you're working on it. There's an included tool that you can use to back off this Phillips screw here that kind of holds the guard in place. Once you get that up and out of the way, the arbor lock is on the right-hand side. Spin the blade till you get it in place. Then you can remove the arbor nut and replace the blade. We made sure to look at this saw for any blade wobble or some run out issues, and we found none. We looked at everything on here. We changed multiple different blades. We did a lot of cuts. We did a lot of looking, and our saw was really, really good. This saw will miter to the left to 47 degrees and miter to the right all the way over to 52 degrees. Now you have common detents at 0, 15, 22.5, 31.6, and 45 degrees. And if you want to, there is a switch down below that will lock those detents out and allow you just to simply slide back and forth and lock it in place wherever you'd like to. Pretty nice sliding saw, and the miter system works pretty good. The miter saw will bevel both to the right and left 45 degrees. There's a lock pin here that stops you at 0 degrees and only allows you to bevel to the left. Pull that lock pin out and it gives you full freedom to bevel both ways. If you want to come back to your positive stop at 0, you push the pin in and tighten the tensioning knob again. The bevel scale is really easy to read, and there's highlights there for some really commonly used angles. There's a place to put your work clamp on each side of the table, and we found that this included work clamp didn't clamp down really well. We could continue to screw this in, and if it just jostled around a little bit, it would just continue to let go. The knurling here and the tolerances are just a little too loose. The electronic blade brake on this saw stops the blade fairly quickly after you let go of the trigger. It gives you a lot more confidence reaching underneath the saw and pulling out those cut pieces. The slide on this saw was a little tight directly out of the box. As we use the saw more and more, it's gotten a lot more smooth. As we said before, make sure you clean these areas around here to make sure that the sawdust doesn't accumulate. And the head on this saw has very little to no deflection, so it cuts very well. Overall, we had a very positive experience using the 36-volt Ryobi miter saw. The fences were the only thing that really we feel holds it back from being a very solid trim saw. As far as a DIY saw, this thing is excellent. It provides you a lot of accuracy, a lot of features that are in the saw that you might not find in a lower grade saw, but also the portability and some great runtime. We were very surprised at how long these two 4-amp-hour batteries on the back would last. And the power with it for cutting 4x4s or even cutting 2x12s is there. The only time where we might have lacked a little bit of power and thought we could use a little bit more was when we were bevel cutting at a 45 on a 2x12. Now that cut can be a little tough for some of these saws, but at that point we knew that this was a battery operated saw because we were just asking for a little bit more power. Overall, we switched the blades up a lot to try to make sure that it wasn't the blade that was holding us back, and we could make some very nice cuts with some good blades. I would highly recommend this saw for anyone who's looking for something to use as maybe in their wood shop and they want to go out and do a little bit on the road, a little bit of construction on the go. But again, the fences are what's going to hold you back. I think anyone who's really good at woodworking can work around these fences, but it's not what you'd want to do in a construction or on a job site. You want to have good, accurate cuts that are going to be quick. So if you're looking at this saw or considering it, take into account what we said. The brushless motor is awesome. The soft start is great. The blade brake is great. Having two Ryobi 18-volt batteries is good because you can swap them out. Make sure you're using high-capacity lithium batteries on this unit. It's not a heavy one. I would give it a good mark for someone who's going to use it as a DIY saw. So stop by Workshop Addict and also make sure that you follow us on social media. We have a lot of stuff going on there. Give us a like on this video, subscribe to our channel. Thanks for your time watching this video. Have a great day.